Next item on the agenda is to accept or modify the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Action agenda. Adopt resolution requesting the Board of Supervisors to issue general obligation bonds to refund 2 existing bonds.
Would you like for me to open up with this one? Okay. Now that I've brought up here on the agenda. The county has contacted us, the school system, and notified us that they have identified 2 current school-related bonds that if refunded, or in layman's terms, refinanced at current market rates, it would save the county an estimated just over $3 million over the life of the bonds. The first bond is designated as Series 2013B, which was used to partially fund the renovation of what we called at that time the Luray Avenue Middle School, and now we all know it as Skyline Middle School. The second bond is designated as Series 2014 and funded the construction of the new middle school, which now is known as Warren County Middle School. The county has requested the school board to adopt the attached resolution so that we may proceed with they may proceed with the application to refund those bonds and realize these savings. It is proposed to refund these bonds through the fall 2020 Virginia Public School Authority, known as the VPSA, bond issuance. An overview of the refunding is attached along with the proposed resolution. I mentioned that Ted Cole, who is the Senior Vice President of Davenport, would be available, but I don't think he is here. We weren't sure if he's going to be by telephone or in person, but at the moment he is not. Mr. Daly, our interim county administrator, is here, and maybe between the two of us we can try to answer any questions you have regarding this. This is something that's been done in the past quite often. It's similar to what everyone probably is doing with their home mortgage when they find that they can save money by refinancing it, or as we in these terms call it, refunding the bonds. It passes along the savings that the county, again, will be around $3 million over the remainder of the life of the bonds.
Thank you. I'm pinch hitting for Mr. Cole and John Muntz, who County Finance Director, who should show up at any time, and I'll quit. As mentioned, this is a refinancing. The proposal is if you approve the authorization to file this evening, then on your meeting September 2nd, the Board of Supervisors would attend your meeting, and Mr. Cole, who I thought was going to be here today, would be there to present the entire framework for you to look at and to approve and to authorize a second step of the authorization process. That's about all I know other than what she said, sir.
Yeah, I think from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this is just a resolution that sort of starts the wheel in motion as far as the application. I think the application is due by August 31st. That's why it's sort of timely at this meeting just to do this. But this makes no commitment on the board, either board's part, to actually go forward. It just allows for the application to be submitted so that we meet the deadline for the fall issuance. And with interest rates the way they are right now, I don't think we want to wait till the spring to find out what happens then as far as interest rates when the next issuance would be.
And that's correct. You're not committed to anything at this point. We can pull the application at any time. So this is just preliminary, but it needs to be done this month. And therefore, the Board of Supervisors approved the same resolution last night.
The interest rate is fixed?
It is not. It will not be determined until much closer to when the bonds are issued, but based on the estimates of what it is now and would be then, it is where they come up with this potential estimate of savings.
Okay.
Vice Chair Bauer,
Yes.
I didn't know if you could hear me. I have a question for Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly, this is Arnold. If I'm reading all this correctly, and you know I'm going to rely on your financial expertise, we're not extending the time frame of the loan. We're not borrowing any more money. We're just doing a straight up refinance to save our county taxpayers money, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Daly at this time?
So we need to make this resolution happen, is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's a proposed motion there that would have you adopting this resolution, if you're so inclined.
I don't see the problem with that. And the draft resolution requested by the Board of Supervisors to issue general obligation bonds for school purposes and consenting to the assurance thereof adopted as presented.
Second that.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Daly.
and we'll see you September 2nd.
Thank you. Recommendation to revise 2020-2021 school calendar. Mrs. Shepherd.
Good evening. Due to the extended delivery timeline of student devices, as well as the integration of the adopted learning management systems, the recommendation is to delay the start of the 2020-2021 school until Tuesday, September the 8th, 2020. This change will give the technology department time to receive and configure technology devices for our students. Also, teachers will have additional time to learn the new learning management systems through which students will receive their virtual learning materials and courses. The proposed calendar includes the following dates. September 8th will be the first day of school for students. The end of the first advisory would be November the 10th. The end of the first semester would be January 29th. The end of the third advisory would be April the 13th. The end of the school year, the last day for students would be June the 17th. Dr. Ballinger called each of the school board members regarding the calendar changes prior to advertising the changes to our staff and the community. The recommendation is to approve the revised calendar as presented. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I had all my questions answered when Dr. Ballinger called me. Thank you. Good.
I have no questions on the calendar.
Is there a motion?
I move the revised 2020-2021 school calendar be approved as presented. The first day of school will be Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, and the last day of school will be Thursday, June 17th, 2021.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Stay where you are. Approval of expenditure over $15,000, food and nutrition services point of sale software and hardware support package.
Thank you. Approval is requested to renew the enterprise point of sale software and hardware package from Data Business Systems for the food and nutrition program. The system is used in all of our cafeterias. This program automates sales activities, meal and eligibility counts, and provides data for state and federal reports. The software processes cafeteria sales, tracks items sold, generates reports, and provides information on meals purchased. The system allows parents to put money on students' lunch accounts through a secured internet connection. Parents are able to monitor their child's purchase for breakfast or lunch using the online portion of the program. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of the point of sale software and hardware package from Data Business Systems for the Food and Nutrition Program. Be happy to answer any questions.
This is what we've used in the past.
We have used this program for at least the last 10 years. And it works well for us and for our parents and our students. This is a slightly reduced cost from last year.
Oh, that's
Yes,
good.
yes.
Any questions?
So this is renewed annually?
It is renewed annually,
Okay.
that's correct.
My
For a
turn?
motion?
Madam Chairman, I move approval be given to purchase the point of sale software and hardware support package from Data Business Systems in the amount of $17,941.09.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Approval to request additional appropriation of $300,000 from Warren County Board of Supervisors. Mr. Valentine.
Well, at its meeting last night, August the 18th, the Warren County Board of Supervisors approval was given to reimburse the school district for the cost of pre-K and kindergarten tablets in the amount of $300,000. This goes back, I think we've talked about the need to have these tablets before, and one source of funding we looked at, but Mr. Grant had requested that funding possibly be considered by the county through what's known as the CARES Act, and the county went ahead and approved that. They'll use CARES Act's funding to provide reimbursement to us up to the $300,000 for these tablets. As this expenditure was not anticipated in the approved fiscal year 2021 budget, an additional appropriation will need to be approved so that these funds can be received and spent. So even though they've said we'll reimburse you for them, we still need to ask them to increase our appropriation amount, the amount of our budget, so that receiving and spending those funds won't put us over what we've been approved, because we're not allowed to do that. So this is sort of a technicality, a formality to follow up on the fact that they have granted us reimbursement with the use of these funds for those tablets. But again, we'll need to formally ask them to take the second step of that, which would be to increase our appropriation by that amount. Be glad to answer any questions you might have regarding that.
Does this bring us completely up to one-to-one?
I will defer to Mr. Grant on that question, Tim, as far as the, will this bring us up to one-to-one totally?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and this is mainly taking care of the elementary, preschool, and kindergarten, and special services or special education Chrome tablets, which is a little bit different than a Chromebook, where it doesn't have it's got a touch screen, more for the little fingers and that.
When do you anticipate them all being here?
We are anticipating that they will be here the first week in September.
With the truck arrives on time?
Yes. We may need to go out and push.
I move that the superintendent be authorized to request that the Warren County Board of Supervisors increase the fiscal year 2020-2021 school operating budget by $300,000.
I second it.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Grant, approval of purchase of preschool and kindergarten tablets.
So this is related to what we just talked about. Warren County Public Schools would like to purchase 403 Chrome tablets for preschool kindergarten students. This is a remainder of the total student needs for the 900 tablets we need for the preschool and kindergarten students. The cost of each of these devices includes the case, the management software, and the warranty. The total cost is $149,871.67, but you also have to add that into what we asked for 2 weeks ago, which was the total $330 some. The quotes are in there, and These items are to be paid out of CARES Act funds, what we just talked about, and then the remainder of the Title I and Title IV carryover funds. Release and approval of these funds will need to be approved by Warren County Board of Supervisors before purchasing. However, we just approved those last night, or they just approved those last night. So that's taken care of. And these items are being purchased off of the state contract. Do you have any additional questions?
I have none.
I'm good.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that approval be given to purchase Chrome tablets in the amount not to exceed $150,000. This is contingent upon Warren County Board of Supervisors approval of the allocation CARES Act fund and the release of Title I and Title IV funds.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries, thank you. LP Gas Services, Mr. Lissay.
Good evening. Our current agreement for our LP, or liquid propane gas services, did expire this year. We did not have any renewal years remaining on the contract, so we went out with invitation for bids with four providers and received 3 responses back. Holtzman Propane, the incumbent provider, was the low bidder at the rate of 93.5 cents per gallon. Our estimated annual usage for propane services last year was about $166,000. I haven't tallied up this year's cost. I think it's lower because we did have a milder winter and a few other things, shutting down school earlier. So our estimated annual usage cost for next year is estimated at about $155,697. This contract would have an initial period of performance of 1 year with 4 one-year renewals behind that at agreed upon pricing. We would request the school board to approve an annual agreement in the amount of $155,697.33 with Holtzman Propane for LP gas services. Any questions?
Yeah, pricing looked great.
Yeah. Very competitive.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that the annual service agreement for propane services in the amount of $155,697.33 be awarded to Holtzman Propane Services.
Second that?
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank
Thank
you.
you. Moving.
Mr. Hirsch, approval of crisis management plan and medical emergency response plan.
Madam Chairperson, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, it's always a great opportunity to speak before you. As we've done in previous years, our goal is safety and to review the crisis management plan on an annual basis. A crisis can impact a whole building or an entire school division. Never has that been more evident now. The most important consideration is the health and safety of our staff and the health and safety of our students. This plan intends to provide staff with guidelines and pre-planned responses to various emergency situations and crisis situations. I provided a full copy of the plan to the chairperson and the superintendent, of course, for review, and our staff has reviewed it. And in your package, you have the division level plan. The major changes this year are actually not that many, but they're very important. The major change this year is with lockdowns. The frequency of the lockdowns have actually decreased. However, the strategic placement of the lockdowns have changed. Each school will now have a lockdown drill at least twice during the first 20 days of school. And one additional lockdown will be held after the first 60 days of school. And this part, that has changed, and this part is new. Each school will provide parents enrolled at least 24 hours notice, parents of students enrolled, at least 24 hours notice before the school conducts the lockdown drill. And then there's special guidance concerning pre-K and kindergarten students. And we provided guidance to the board and hopefully will provide them to our principals. Pre-K and kindergarten students do not have to participate in the first 2 lockdown drills just coming into school. We're going to take a different approach. As these students are transitioning into a new environment, a more developmentally appropriate approach to ensuring safety can be implemented. So teachers and staff can use appropriate literature, teacher-led activities, social stories combined with thorough communication with parents to teach the desired skills and prepare the students to understand lockdowns. And if you think back, well, maybe not think back, but if you think about a kindergarten or a pre-K student starting school immediately, maybe a lockdown drill isn't the way we want to start the year. So what we're doing is we're providing those teacher-led activities and social stories to provide a more developmentally appropriate approach. And then after that 60 days, then they'll participate in that lockdown drill that happens after that. Another change is how we're going to conduct evacuation plans and fire drills. As we now have an alternate schedule, we can't just hold one fire drill. We have to hold multiple fire drills, so we ensure we have every student practicing how to safely evacuate the building. And while they're safely evacuating the building, they also have to practice social distancing. And the Virginia Department of Fire Programs gives guidance for us how to do that. And I'll be brief. Fire door exit monitors can prevent the constant touching of the doors. Hand washing or hand sanitizing stations with no-touch dispensers will be provided. Cleaning and disinfecting surfaces that students and staff may contact while exiting are of course done. We ensure face coverings are being worn, and we can use handheld signs to communicate and direct students while wearing face coverings. Now, this tactic is great for drills, and the Department of Fire clearly states, if in a real emergency exists, be it fire, weather-related, environmental, or lockdown that warrant the immediate safety of students, those social distancing considerations should not supersede the safe exit, assembly, or defend in place needed to protect its occupants. So that's clear guidance given by the department so we can institute our evacuation drills. Those are the 2 changes coming from the Department of Education. Another change, of course, is our health mitigation strategies that we've employed division-wide for staff and students to ensure the safety of our people. And that's well documented and well laid out in our crisis plan. I would love to entertain some questions if you have any.
Is this whole plan on our website so the community can review it, see it?
Yes, ma'am, the crisis plan, portions of it. The part with the specific passcodes and codes that certain law enforcement use, certain blueprints and things like that are not available for public use.
That makes sense.
But there are our health handbook, our safety handbook, our allergies handbook, and all those kinds of things are posted on the website for our community to see. And we encourage the community to come in and talk with us about it and ask any questions.
Great. I think that's important that they be able to access that information, especially during this COVID time.
Any other questions?
I think the plan for the pre-K and K kids is a great idea, because especially pre-K, you scare them to death on the first day,
Exactly.
And then it's amazing, and listening to everyone for the last few months, the ripple effect of this COVID virus is really, it's mind-boggling that staff can keep up with all this. It really is. So congratulations and my opinion.
Thank you. And I do want to really impress upon the board that the crisis plan does not stand alone. This is not the only thing that we do to ensure the safety of our students. I mean, our staff and principals and the teachers, they do it every day. However, we do have school safety inspections. Mr. Livesey works with the school principals and does safety inspections, safety surveys, and safety audits that are all completed. They're actually all completed right now. The deadline is August 31st, and we've completed all of our audits and inspections. And now what we're going to do, on Monday, we're going to review all of our data. In addition, what we do, where did I write it? Well, that is what we do. And we have it as part of our threat assessment team. And we'll be looking at all that data, and we'll be addressing all those questions with maintenance and with the sheriff's office. And I did forget to say that these plans were all sent to the fire department, EMS, the sheriff, and the Front Royal PD. And they reviewed these plans prior to me coming forward before you tonight. And actually, I just got off the phone with one of them prior to this meeting. And they will participate in our threat assessment meeting on Monday, as they do with all our division level threat assessment teams. So it isn't just the schools making this stuff up. We have fire, rescue, and all the law enforcement agencies review it and work with us.
I did notice that the central office team roster needs to be updated.
Right, I did that.
Okay,
Thank
it
you
just
for
didn't
that.
show up on here. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, thank you. Is there a motion, or are there any other questions?
I have none.
Madam Chairman, I move that the crisis management plan and emergency response plan be approved.
Second that.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Work session. Mrs. Shepherd, second reading and discussion of July 2020 Bsba school board policy updates.
Thank you. In July 2020, the SBA submitted 4 policies for consideration by the Warren County School Board. A chart showing the updated policies has been prepared by staff members noting the proposed changes. The first reading of the proposed policy changes was August the 5th. The second reading and discussion is scheduled for tonight at this work session, and then the recommendation for approval will be at the September 2nd school board meeting. Just to highlight a few of the changes, GBA, JFHA, prohibition against harassment and retaliation, had quite a few changes. The definition of sexual harassment has been redefined. There's a three-pronged definition now, which includes unwelcome conduct, quid pro quo, and sexual violence. So unwelcome conduct is determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to the recipient's educational program or activity. Unwelcome conduct, quid pro quo, an employee of the recipient conditioning the provision of an aid, benefit, or service of the recipient on an individual's participation in unwelcome sexual conduct. And then sexual violence is the same definition of sexual violence that's been defined previously. Also, the grievance process has changed dramatically, and both parties have to be treated equitably. It requires the objective evaluation of all available evidence. It requires, this is the big change, it requires a Title IX coordinator, an investigator, a decision maker, and an appeals person. And then it includes a presumption that the respondent is not responsible until a determination is made at the conclusion of the grievance process, and it requires a reasonably prompt time frame. So those are, kind of the highlights of the sexual harassment policy. And then the restraint and seclusion policy requires us to have additional training on restraint and seclusion of students. So be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Smith is our coordinator for our Title IX complaints, and then Mr. Hirsch is also here, who does our restraint and seclusion policy. So be happy to answer any questions.
I had called Mrs. Shepherd earlier and spoken to her about my questions, and I'm fine.
I'm good.
Mr. Williams?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion? Oh, no motion today, no motion today,
Yeah.
that's right. Thank you.
September the 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Ballinger, update on reopening plan.
There's just a couple of changes that I just wanted to make the board aware of that we had to address. At Warren County Middle School, we found that with the way our elementary schedules were, that created 3 separate releases at Warren County Middle School because of having, let me scroll back up here to it. because we had Hilda J. Barber and, well, we had E.W. Wilson Morrison and Leslie Fox Kaiser scheduled together for an 8 o'clock start and a 1:30 release. And that caused Leslie Fox Kaiser is going to Warren County Middle, E.W. Wilson to Skyline Middle. So then you had Hilda J. Barber, they were starting at 9 o'clock with a release time at 2:30. And they were going to Warren County Middle. And so then you had Warren County Middle's release at 3:05. So we had a 1:30, a 2:30, and a 3:05 release. So we talked to principals last week, and we made a switch on the schedules with E.W. Wilson Morrison and Hilda J, so that those times will correspond. So we only have one release time outside of the end of the day at Warren County Middle. So we talked to the principals, and they have sent out communications to the parents about the start time changes, just because that helps with transportation as well, and that also limits a lot of traffic and confusion at Warren County Middle School towards the end of the day.
You touched on it briefly, but can you just clarify again, just for everyone that has concerns about the different start times for each of the elementary schools? I understand the change that you've made, but just in general, why multiple schools are starting at different times and ending at different times? I know that's been a concern for some parents that have reached out to me.
Yes, ma'am. And that's simply because of the number of students that we can transport. So when you look at the transportation, where we were able to take one bus and pick up 60 students, now we may need to send that same bus at least twice with an additional bus, making those, so we're making more runs. So we had to stagger our starts and move elementary just to make that work within the routes and the number of students that we needed to transport. And we transport around 50% of our student population. And so that was really putting a strain on our transportation department.
Have individual schools, if you have students with two different last names, say going to school on different days, can they on a case-by-case basis contact the school and see, can this stepbrother and sister go on the same day?
Yeah, and families are together, especially at the elementary. They're going 4 days a week, and then when you look at the middle and the high school, yes, we would look at those families that have last names, and maybe they go on Monday instead of a Monday, Tuesday, because of which day their last name would cause them to fall on.
Your question was if they had different last names but in the same family.
Well, I just met somebody actually on Sunday that said his sister would be going on Tuesday and he would be going on Monday because they have two different last names.
But they live in the same
But they live in
house.
the same house.
They-
So they could contact the school.
Yes,
if
and
they wanted to
the
go on
school
same-
should be looking at that, because we discussed that early with our schools about making sure that we get families on the same day. And so I can definitely, we have a principals meeting tomorrow, and I will reiterate that tomorrow, and they can look at their schedules and their families, and we can address that if there was one or two that were missed.
Sounds good.
Any other questions about reopening?
And we are increasing our sanitizing. The high school faculty were concerned about having an A, B back-to-back with sanitation on Wednesday. And so Mr. Livesey is going to go in, and they are going to sanitize Monday for the Tuesday at Warren County High and Warren County Middle. And then on Thursday and Friday, they will go in on Thursday and sanitize between the ABs that are coming in on Thursday and Friday.
I do have one more question on, and this might be under Mr. Hirsch's, the COVID plan as well, but when the decision was made that elementary school students would take their masks off while they're actually in class, was any consideration given to the older students in elementary school wearing theirs longer throughout the day or during class, or was it just kind of across the board? I guess I just want to know the reasoning that the pre-K kids, I can understand them taking theirs off, but, could the fourth graders wear theirs more?
No, and again, we're just, that's within the guidance, we're staying within that guidance to encourage. And that was on a call this last week with Dr. Green. It still is the directive to encourage at that level. And so we'll continue to encourage the face coverings as they transition anywhere in the building, a face covering has to be on. They must wear a face covering. Just because we may not be able to mitigate the distance that students may come in contact with each other. And so it's just best practice to go ahead, put that face covering on, transition to where we're going to go, and once we can get into our little bubble, then we can take a face covering break.
And that's even going to be difficult for the children to wear a face covering. I mean, I've just been watching everybody around the room here, and the multiple times that people are touching their face covering, and the cross-contamination, the self-contamination, and the kids are going to be putting it in the desk or on the floor and then on their face, and, there's no good answer.
There's not, no ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions about the reopening plan? No? Any further business?
No, ma'am. Just want to say thank you, Ms. Fowler, for running the meeting tonight.
You're welcome.